This podcast is a work of historical interpretation. While we strive for accuracy, some aspects of history are open to interpretation and debate. Thank you for listening.
How about now?
Yes, I can hear you. Oh, good Lord. Can I not hear you? Where's your mute? I heard that. Okay. Welcome to Time Tellers, where we dive deep into the stories that shaped our past. Today, we're exploring the true origins of Thanksgiving, a holiday surrounded by myths, nostalgia, and a fair share of historical inaccuracies.
What about turkeys?
Yeah, they didn't actually eat turkey.
What about cranberry sauce in the shape of a can?
No, that wasn't there either.
Why not? Did they just have the stupid berry cranberry sauce that nobody likes?
My mom makes a really good cranberry sauce, and it is not canned.
Who makes cranberry sauce? The only good cranberry sauce is cranberry jello in a can.
My mom makes really good cranberry sauce.
Are you sharing?
She will make us some before she leaves to go to Boston to visit my sister.
Us, as in me?
Well, if you want some, I can save you some.
Oh.
While many of us envision Pilgrims and Native Americans sitting together in harmony, the real story of Thanksgiving is much more complex. We'll uncover what happened in 1621 and how it became a national holiday, and how celebration has transformed into a modern feast we know and love today. Okay, first we're going to start the true story of the first Thanksgiving in 1621. The story of Thanksgiving is often framed around the idea of a friendly feast between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people. But the reality is more layered. So who were the Pilgrims? Do you know who the Pilgrims are, Dan? The Pilgrims were English separatists who arrived in North America aboard the Mayflower in 1620 seeking religious freedom. They settled in what is now Plymouth, Massachusetts. Initially, they landed in Cape Cod in November and moved on to Plymouth in December. The Pilgrims' Puritan beliefs emphasized a strict, simplified form of Christianity centered on the Bible as the ultimate authority. Predestination, which is the belief that God has already determined the fate of every individual, and a moral, disciplined lifestyle. They aimed to create a covenant community built on hard work, piety, and mutual spiritual responsibility, serving as a model for a devout Christian society. The first winter was brutal, with nearly half of the original 102 settlers dying from cold, hunger, and disease. The survivors, despite the harsh conditions, persevered, although they did struggle to grow crops and face harsh living conditions. Then we have the Wampanoag people and Chief Massasoit. Chief Massasoit. The Wampanoag people, led by Chief Massasoit, don't laugh at me, Massasoit,
I can't help it,
had lived in the regions for thousands of years. However, they were weakened by an epidemic that had ravaged their population between 1616 and 1619. Possibly due to European diseases brought by traders and explorers. The exact disease is uncertain, but it is believed to have been either smallpox or hepatitis, among other possibilities. It devastated the Wampanoag population, killing an estimated 75 to 90% of the tribe. The Wampanoag were wary of the Pilgrims, but saw an opportunity for an alliance to help protect them against the powerful Narragansett tribe. Their rivals to the west, which is now Rhode Island. The Narragansett largely avoided direct conflict with European settlers in the early years. The first Thanksgiving was a 3-day harvest celebration in the fall of 1621. It was not a formal holiday, but a feast of gratitude for a successful harvest, aided by the Wampanoag agricultural guidance, particularly with crops like corn, beans, and squash, known as the Three Sisters. This was after the Wampanoag tribe, recognizing the importance of unity, helped the Pilgrims during the spring of 1621, after the Pilgrims' first harsh winter at Plymouth. In March 1621, Samoset, an Abenaki visitor, introduced the Pilgrims to Squanto, a Wampanoag who spoke English. Squanto, acting as an interpreter and guide, taught the Pilgrims essential survival skills, such as growing corn, fishing, and gathering resources. Soon after, Chief of the Wampanoag established a formal alliance with the Pilgrims, agreeing to mutual protection and support. Around 90 Wampanoag men joined 53 Pilgrims for the feast, which likely featured venison, deer, fowl including ducks and geese, corn porridge, and shellfish. In other words, they did not eat what we would traditionally see today, as in turkey, potatoes, and cranberry sauce.
You mean cranberry jello?
I wrote sauce.
Is there a difference?
Yes.
What's the difference?
One comes out of a can.
Okay, but what happens if you make jello and dump it into a can and put it in the fridge?
That's jello, not
but
sauce.
Would it look the same?
No.
How wouldn't it?
I'm not.
If you have a can and you make the jello and you put the cranberry jello in it,
It would look like
in the fridge.
cranberry jello, which is not sauce.
It would look like cranberry sauce. It would look like a nice can of cranberry sauce.
No.
How wouldn't it?
That's jello, not sauce.
If you used food coloring to match the same exact coloring as cranberry sauce, would it look the exact same?
Why do you need to add food coloring if it's sauce?
Make it be the right shade of red.
Okay. It was less of a feast of friendship and more of an uneasy truce between two groups seeking survival and mutual benefit. While there was an initial alliance, tension between the Wampanoag and the English settlers grew in the following years. The truce between the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims lasted for about 54 years, from 1621 until 1675. However, conflicts over land, resources, and English encroachment eventually led to violent confrontations, culminating in the devastating King Philip's War in 1675, which decimated the Wampanoag and other tribes in New England.
Are you going to give us a little more
Excuse me.
background on King Philip's War?
I can, because that is the next paragraph.
Oh, okay. Who's
Yeah.
King Philip?
King Philip's War was a violent conflict between New England Native American tribes led by Metacom, who was King Philip, and English colonists. It began over land disputes and growing colonial control. The war, one of the bloodiest in American history, resulted in thousands of deaths on both sides. It ended with Metacom, King Philip's death, and the near collapse of native resistance, solidifying English dominance in New England. So over the years, Thanksgiving has taken on more of a mythologicizing?
Ooh, is there some kind of a giant cryptid turkey?
There might be. The true story of Thanksgiving was largely forgotten or reinterpreted over the centuries, evolving into a more idealized version. So, let's bring in Sarah Josepha Hale, a magazine editor and author, best known for writing Mary Had a Little Lamb. She helped make Thanksgiving a national holiday. Sarah believed National Day of Thanks could help unite the country significantly as tensions over slavery grew in the mid-19th century. The magazine Sarah Josepha Hale edited was called Godey's Lady Book. It was one of the most famous women's magazines of the 19th century.
Wait, women in the 19th century?
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for you to say that.
Were they allowed to?
Yeah, they were allowed to.
Oh,
Sometimes.
they might have been allowed to, but how many could?
I think it was less, but then again, how many people in America were literate
That's what
to
I
begin
mean.
with?
I think that should be a focus for a lot of things.
Yeah,
Literacy and education.
those are important topics. Absolutely.
Yes, they are.
After a 17-year campaign of writing letters to 5 different presidents, Hale's efforts succeeded when President Abraham Lincoln, during the Civil War, proclaimed Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. He designated a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens, to foster national unity. It was designated to be observed on the last Thursday of November. That's why it's not the same day every single year.
Oh.
Date every single year. For example, this year it is the 28th. The reinvention of Thanksgiving in the 19th century. We're still in the 19th century. By the late 1800s, Thanksgiving was rebranded as a family-oriented holiday, focused on gratitude, domesticity, and the American identity. Although other countries do celebrate Thanksgiving not on the same day. The Pilgrims...
November 1st is Canada's.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Canada gets all the cool holidays. They get Boxing Day and...
Which is around Christmas time, if I remember
the day
correctly.
after Christmas.
Day after.
They get Canada Day.
Well, that would be a little strange for us to celebrate Canada Day.
Why?
In America.
Why?
We're not Canada. The Pilgrims were romanticized as peaceful settlers, while Native Americans were reduced to friendly helpers, reinforcing the myth of cooperation rather than conflict. School curricula began teaching the story as a symbol of national origins, presenting a harmonious feast that reflected manifest destiny and the belief in American progress. What is manifest destiny, you ask? Well, I have an answer for
I
you.
did not ask that. Thank
You were
very much,
thinking
'cause
about
I
it,
knew
though.
the answer.
Manifest destiny was the 19th century belief that America's divine mission was to expand its territory across the North American continent, from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. It was rooted in ideas of nationalism, racial superiority, and economic opportunity. It justified the nation's westward expansion. Advocates saw it as both inevitable and righteous, often at the expense of Native American lands and Mexican territories. This, of course, would lead to conflicts like the Mexican-American War and the displacement of indigenous peoples. Today's Thanksgiving is quite different from the original harvest celebration. The classic Thanksgiving meal featuring turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie evolved primarily in the 19th and 20th century. The turkey became central due to its abundance and status as a distinctly American bird.
I still wish that would have been the national bird like Ben Franklin wanted.
And I actually mentioned that in the next bullet point.
Well, turkey's a lot better than the bald eagle.
Well,
a lot more majestic.
I was going to say pumpkin pie. I never liked pumpkin pie growing up.
It's
I
disgusting.
do like it now. I like it now. It's still not my favorite, but so my mom would always make me apple pie too. So shout out to Mom. Thanks for not making me only, not have dessert on Thanksgiving. Because she would make me apple pie.
Where's my apple pie?
Well, I didn't say she does it still. I'll get her cranberry sauce though, right, Mom? If you're listening, Mother, I
don't
am
need
putting
to
in
sell.
my order for cranberry sauce. Although you'll be out of town by the time this airs, and
my
hopefully
cranberry
already
sauce?
gave it to me. Okay, you're
Yeah,
having
where's
a
my applesauce?
repeating issue. So, as I was saying, the next bullet point is Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin suggested the turkey as a potential national bird. Franklin believed the turkey was more appropriate symbol of America than the bald eagle, which he considered to be of bad moral character. I'm not sure how you decide if a bird is a bad moral character, but okay,
it's
Franklin.
kind of a scavenger.
You're right. You're right. He admired the turkey as a more respectable bird and one that was native to America. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
However, of course, as we all know, hopefully, the bald eagle was ultimately chosen as a national symbol in 1782. The meal symbolized prosperity, often representing an idealized version of the American abundance and family unity. For immigrants arriving from Europe throughout the 19th century, Thanksgiving became a way to participate in a national tradition and demonstrate their patriotism and commitment to becoming part of American society. Churches, schools, and settlement houses often encouraged immigrant families to observe the holiday again as a symbol of unity and gratitude. Over time, immigrant communities blended traditional American foods with their cultural dishes, creating a diverse take on Thanksgiving meal. It's like some people will eat ham instead of turkey. I've heard that.
Well, I don't like turkey.
The Thanksgiving football game tradition began in the late 1800s with the first college football game on Thanksgiving in 1876. Do you know who that was between? What colleges played that game?
Well, being in the 1870s, there wasn't a whole lot to choose from. I mean, it's Harvard and Yale.
Ooh, half right. Half right. Not Harvard, but
Princeton.
yes. That first game was played between That first game was between Yale University and Princeton University. This game helped establish the tradition of playing football on Thanksgiving, which later became a regular holiday feature, particularly with the growth of college and professional football in the United States. And that is where we see the traditional group of people around the TV yelling at the screen, or the people that go outside and play a game of football.
I sleep or play video games or sit there.
Dan is not one of those people. So, Detroit Lions. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. They have hosted a Thanksgiving game every year since 1934. Dallas Cowboys began playing annually on Thanksgiving in 1966, except for a brief break in 1975 and 1977.
Why? That's a brief break. During them, we just stopped for 2 years?
No, I think they did it in 1976. It's just not the year before and the year after. I'm not sure if that was a Vietnam War thing, or I'm not sure why.
Not in the 70s. That would have been after Vietnam.
Well, 1977, yeah. I'm not sure. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade started in 1924 to kick off the holiday shopping season, adding
we have an episode of
a festive, commercial element to the holiday. And yes, we do. We just don't know when it's coming out.
Yeah.
By the mid-20th century, Thanksgiving was firmly linked to the launch of the holiday shopping season, with the day after Thanksgiving becoming known as Black Friday, one of the busiest shopping days of the year. However, with the explosion of online shopping, that shopping holiday has changed in recent years.
Now it's every Friday for the entire month.
Yeah. Oof. The National Day of Mourning began in 1970, sparked by a speech controversy involving Wamsutta Frank James, a Wampanoag leader. He was invited to speak at the state-sponsored event commemorating the 350th anniversary of the Pilgrims' landing. When organizers saw his speech, which highlighted the suffering of indigenous people after European colonization, they refused to let him deliver it, unless he made it more favorable. James refused to alter his words, leading him and the other indigenous activists to establish the National Day of Mourning as a way to publicly speak the truth about Thanksgiving and its consequences for Native peoples. Participants come together to honor Native ancestors, especially those who suffered or were killed as a result of European colonization, land theft, and forced assimilation. It is a day to remember the resilience and resistance of indigenous people throughout history. The event also serves as a protest against ongoing injustices such as land disputes, broken treaties, systematic racism, and the high rates of poverty, illness, and incarceration faced by many Native communities. It emphasizes that the effects of colonization are not just historical, but are still felt today. A primary focus is debunking Thanksgiving myths, particularly the oversimplified narrative of the harmonious feast in 1621. Activists emphasize that the arrival of the Pilgrims marked the beginning of violence, disease, and land loss for indigenous people. Beyond remembrance, the National Day of Mourning is a call to action for Native sovereignty and recognition of indigenous rights. It includes demands for better health care, education, land rights, and adherence to treaties often violated or simply ignored by the U.S. government. The event is held at Coles Hill, which overlooks Plymouth Rock. It is a symbolic location tied to the Pilgrims' Landing. It begins with the ceremony, which includes prayers, speeches, and sharing of Native songs, traditions, and stories. Native leaders and activists give speeches about indigenous struggles and resilience, emphasizing the broader message of the day and addressing current issues affecting Native communities. Participants often share personal stories to highlight the ongoing impacts of colonization. After the gathering, participants often march through Plymouth carrying signs and banners calling for justice, reparations, and solidarity. The march is a form of direct action symbolizing ongoing resistance. A moment of silence is often observed to reflect on the pain and loss suffered by indigenous peoples, both past and present. This moment is a solemn reminder of the lives lost due to colonization and the ongoing struggles for recognition and justice. The National Day of Mourning has become a significant event that raises awareness about Indigenous history and contemporary issues. It provides an alternative perspective, not alternative facts, it's perspective, because things look differently depending on where you are looking at them. That's, what perspective means. To the Thanksgiving narrative, encouraging Americans to recognize the full scope of history and support Indigenous rights. It also aligns with broader movements like Indigenous Peoples Day, which is an alternative to Columbus Day, and we mentioned that not too many episodes ago, right? Yeah. It advocates for more accurate and inclusive representations of American history. As of October 2024, President Joe Biden has issued annual presidential proclamations recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday of October, beginning in 2021. However, this day is not yet a federal holiday. In October 2023, legislation known as the Indigenous Peoples Day Act was reintroduced in Congress, aiming to designate the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day nationwide. The bill has garnered support, but has not been enacted into law as of when I wrote this, which was October 25th of 2024.
Oh.
Thanksgiving is a holiday rooted in gratitude, a time to reflect, share, and give thanks. However, it's also essential to acknowledge its complex and painful history. The modern version of this holiday provides an opportunity to celebrate and recognize the Indigenous people's role in American history and the ongoing challenges they face. Do you have any Thanksgiving traditions besides playing video games?
No.
No?
Sitting around doing nothing.
See, we always went for a hike. That was a big thing in my family.
Past how many years I've, worked for it, getting ready for all the big Black Friday stuff.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always went on a hike, and I still try to get my kids to do it. Sometimes I can do it. We'll try again this year. The story of Thanksgiving is a mix of truth and myth, alliance and betrayal, gratitude and survival. As we gather around the table this year, honor the holiday spirit and complex history, and try not to get into arguments with your relatives. That's it for this episode of Time Tellers. If you enjoyed learning about the real story of Thanksgiving, please follow us, leave a review. Let us know what your favorite meal is for Thanksgiving or how your family celebrates it. If you don't at all, especially if you're from a different country. Maybe you have your own day of thanks that your country does. That would be awesome to hear about. Join us next time as we uncover another fascinating chapter of history. And look out for our mini episode about the Macy's Day Parade.
It could be before or after this.
Right. We have not scheduled it yet. But it's coming. We've already recorded it.
Yeah.
So, yay. Anything else you would like to add before I say I'm out? Peace.
I still got like one more minute.
How much time does this take? Where are we at?
48 minutes.
Oh. Needs to be at least 22. And this is 6 pages worth of stuff.
Yeah, well. I still think I left in too much in the last one.
Why?
I don't know. Well, I'll let you hear what I edited before I let you hear it the first time.
Oh. Well, I mean, Thanksgiving was always my favorite holiday because there was so much food and we would get together with all the extended family if we could, which was always fun because we either came...
Poor mule comment.
We always came for either Christmas or Thanksgiving because I didn't grow up here, but most of my family's from here. So, and even if we didn't come up here, we still had a really good Thanksgiving in Dayton, which is, I grew up outside of Dayton, Ohio. So, Oakwood, Ohio, for anybody who's there, shout out. Ooh, turkey trot. Turkey trot. I've done the turkey trot like at least once.
Are you doing it this year?
No, I'm not doing it this year because I am old and out of shape. The year, I remember the last year I did it with my dad, and there was a significant amount of snow on the ground. And this was probably 10 years ago, so around the peninsula. Yeah, that's where they hold it. Here, anyways. But I mean, there are lots of other places that do turkey trots every year. That's kind of a thing people do. They'll do 5Ks. So, along with the football tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you are not a fan of 5Ks. No. Fair. Anyways, that is all for today's episode of Time Tellers, where we talked about the real story of Thanksgiving from alliance to myth. Y'all have a good night now.
Don't ever say that again.
Y'all, I was born in Texas. Sometimes it slips out. That is not even like, I was like a year old.
It's not legal if it just slips out.
What? Legal? There's legalities to saying y'all?
Yes, there's legality to things just slipping out.
Okay.